Sadly, a guest that couldn't be with us, who we're about to queue up a video package for, Ingrid Fetell Lee, who is a designer, author, speaker. Many of you are probably familiar with her. Her TED Talk has had over 17 million views. She is the author of the best-selling book, Joyful, and she is also just a really delightful human. So I hope you're going to enjoy this presentation. Ingrid, over to you.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome, Dennis. I'm so sorry I can't be with you there all in person, but I'm thrilled to be talking to you about design personalities from afar. This is actually new work. This is the first time I'm talking about it publicly, so I'm so excited to share it with you. Now, what if I told you I had a question? And based on your answer to that question, I could tell quite a lot about the way that you approach your home, how you like to decorate, the kinds of places you shop, the way that you shop, the way you get inspired, also the kinds of challenges you face in decorating, and how to help you get unstuck so that you can create a home that you really love. I'm going to share this question with you in just a moment, and I want you to look at the possible answers and see which one resonates best with you. Here we go. A magazine is doing a feature on your home, and you are so excited to see your home described as one of these things. Beautifully restrained and thoughtfully edited, richly layered and authentic, a place that instantly makes anyone feel welcome, a timeless classic, trend-setting, ahead of the curve, smart and considered, truly unique, unlike any other, or like something out of a dream. Now, take a moment. I'm sure all of these are things that we all would like to have our home described as, but I want you to think about which one or maximum two are most resonant with you. And make a note of them, and I'll share in a little bit what this means for your design personality. But before I do that, I want to take a step back and share where this question comes from, and give you a little bit of context on why it's so predictive of our relationships with our homes. I'm a designer by background. I know Dennis shared that. And for the past 12 years, I've studied the connection between our surroundings and our mental health and well-being. I look at how we can cultivate greater joy by using our surroundings, and particularly the aesthetics of our surroundings. My work explains the science of why working in an office that looks like this makes us more productive and more energetic than working in an office that looks like this. It's 15% more productive, actually. My work looks at why painting a school with bright colors isn't just decorative, but can actually make students feel safer and can actually increase attendance of both teachers and students. My work looks at why people visiting their family members in a nursing home that looks like this stay longer than people visiting their relatives in a nursing home that looks like this one. And my work explains why people living in a neighborhood with a rainbow crosswalk actually have greater trust in their neighbors than people in neighborhoods that just have regular crosswalks. There's a common thread that runs through all of my work, and that's this, that our spaces play a vital role in our mental health and well-being. And of course, after a year of COVID, a year and a half of COVID now, we've all learned this intimately, that decor is not just decorative. It actually creates the conditions for spaces in which we can actually thrive. And so over the past 2 years, I've been taking this approach and helping people apply it to their own homes through a course called Design a Joyful Home, helping them actually use the science of and the psychology of our environments to create spaces that feel good to them. And what I've noticed over the past couple of years of shepherding students through this course is that people want a home that feels good to them and their families, and yet figuring out how to create that home has gotten harder. We have more options, more inspiration than ever, and yet we sometimes struggle more than it feels like we should. Some of the symptoms of this problem are that we have Pinterest boards full of inspiration, and yet we can't figure out where to start. This happens to, I think, a lot of us these days because there's so much imagery out there to inspire us. We have spaces in our homes that are half decorated because we're just not sure what to do with them. We have lots of ideas, and yet nothing quite seems to work in our own space. And then sometimes we get so overwhelmed by choices that we just end up picking the most neutral one. We go to the store and we think, I'm going to get a patterned sofa. I'm going to, do something really exciting. And then we get there and we look at all the swatches and we're like, maybe I'll just pick beige because at least I won't hate beige. But it's not something we really love either. And I think these are all symptoms of a deeper problem, which is that we're bombarded with ideas for how our homes should look, and yet we forget to think about how our homes feel. Now, if you think about any home that you really feel good in, right? Maybe it's your grandmother's house, a friend's house that you love being in, the house where the parties just seem to go on and on because no one wants to get their coat and leave. Those homes have something in common. It's not that they're picture perfect. It's not that they're perfectly cohesive. It's not that they're always on trend. These homes feel good because they're a true reflection of the people who live there. And that seems like it should be the easiest thing to do, right? But in some sense, it's actually one of the hardest things to do. And so how do we actually help people create homes that are true reflections of them? This is where design personalities come in. So design personalities are a tool that helps us understand our relationship to our homes so that we can cultivate a better relationship with them. They've been called the Myers-Briggs of design. So they're basically a typology, a way of understanding different preferences, different ways that our homes reflect our identities so that we can decorate in a way that sort of follows the grain of our own natural tendencies. A few things to know about design personalities. So they're different from style. Your style explains how you want your home to look. Your design personality explains how you want your home to feel. They're complementary. It's not saying that we don't need style. Style is really important, but design personalities and styles are different. Design personalities are based on a 10-question assessment. So you've answered one of those questions, but there are 10 questions in the assessment. So if you want a deeper understanding of your design personality, you can take the quiz. I'll provide the link at the end of the presentation. You can try it for yourself. It's not a hierarchy. There are no good or bad design personalities. You'll see percentages on the slides, and that's the percentage of our sample of the people who've taken the test who fall into each of those groups. But each design personality has its own strengths and its own challenges. There's no one better or worse than any other. And it's relatively new. So this is less than a year old. And yet at the same time, we've had more than 10,000 people take the assessment so far. And in an early poll, 90% found their design personality to be highly accurate, highly descriptive of the way that they approach their homes. So let's get into the design personalities. If you answered truly unique, unlike any other, you might be a free spirit. Free spirits see their home as a canvas for expressing their unique self. They value uniqueness and they value self-expression. Free spirits follow their intuition when decorating. They make eclectic choices, and that means they can sometimes be prone to impulse buys. Free spirits can sometimes get stuck making it all work together because they get home and they have lots of things they love. So the great thing about free spirits is they don't follow fads or trends. They're true to themselves. They find things that they love, and their home is full of things that they love, but they don't always work together. So that's what free spirits need help with. Now, if you answered like something out of a dream, then you might be, no surprise, a dreamer. And for dreamers, a home is a portal to possibilities. That's because for dreamers, a home is a physical manifestation of a fantasy. Dreamers think about different fantasies, different dreams of what their life could be. One might be being a writer in an Italian villa, and another might be being a city girl in a cool Brooklyn apartment, and another might be living on a farm upstate in New York. And committing to one of those dreams is really challenging. So for dreamers, they struggle with indecision, letting go of possibilities to choose a direction. Dreamers' design sensibility emanates from one of those lives. So when dreamers are decorating, they create scenes, not rooms. They're not putting things together and looking at how they go together. They're thinking about how this creates the ambiance, the vibe of the dream that they're trying to bring into real life. Dreamers shine in inspiration. Their decor is never dull. So they might have trouble getting started, but once they're going, they're spaces are inspired and lush. If you answered beautifully restrained and thoughtfully edited, then you might be an essentialist. The essentialist cares about having a clear idea. The way that they think about their home is as this pure expression of a clear idea. Essentialists care about intention and clarity. Their designs are rooted in this set of values or this single idea, and anything that doesn't fit that has to go, right? They're not necessarily minimalist. It sounds like they might be minimalist, but they might find another kind of style that they embrace in a very pure way. They prefer not to mix too many different styles. Where essentialists get stuck is on perfectionism. So if you're a free spirit living with an essentialist, that can sometimes be challenging, right? Because essentialists don't want anything extraneous. They want everything to support this single idea. But essentialists are great at editing. If you answered smart and considered, then you are probably a pragmatist. You value substance over style. For a pragmatist, the home is probably the most literal definition of the way that we think about a home, right? It's a physical structure that shelters and supports the mechanics of living. So pragmatists are form follows function, they're masters of research, and they invest in things that are built to last. Your pragmatist friend is the one who knows where to get the fluffiest towels. They're the one that has the best, fanciest, newest coffee maker, right? So they are masters of capturing the things that make a home work well. They sometimes get stuck playing it safe because aesthetics can be intimidating or challenging to them, but they have well-organized homes that actually work. Now, if you answered richly layered and authentic, then you might be a collector. Collectors view their homes as a story. It's an evolving story of their life. Collectors decorate slowly because they're telling a story over time. They gather objects, they layer them together to create a textured space. This is where design personality can be really helpful because, of course, a collector and a free spirit both have eclectic spaces. And if you just looked on the surface, you would think that they're very similar. And yet, a collector really cares about telling that story and that story unfolding over time, whereas a free spirit really cares about uniqueness and self-expression. Their definition of what a home is fundamentally different. And so the way that you help them is different. Collectors get stuck with clutter. They have trouble letting go, whereas their advantage is finding unique, one-of-a-kind objects in unexpected places. Collectors always know the best flea markets, and they have the heirlooms that no one else can find. If you answered a place that instantly makes anyone feel welcome, then you're probably a host. Now, a host views their home as the nexus of their relationships. The home is the center of the social life. Hosts start by thinking about the needs of others. They prioritize comfort and ease, and it's not uncommon to find a host who has amazing common areas and their personal space is just completely neglected because they're really focused on the family or on their friends. Hosts can get stuck people-pleasing, but they shine in warmth and intimacy, creating spaces that let people be themselves. If you answered a timeless classic, then you might be a traditionalist. Traditionalists view their home as a point of continuity between past, present, and future. Traditionalists often decorate based on rules. They believe there's a right way to do things and they want to do things the right way. They care about that. They often follow wisdom of experts. They're going to care a lot about what Martha thinks you should do about something and what their grandmother thinks you should do about something. Traditionalists are not necessarily traditional in their decor. So I think this is where design personalities and styles are, again, different. A traditionalist could also be a modernist, right? So they might buy a modern home, but they would decorate it exactly the way the architect intended. They follow the rules. Traditionalists get stuck making things work for them. Sometimes they get stuck living things sometimes they get stuck living with things they don't want because they're part of their heritage. They feel significant and they don't want to let them go. But traditionalists always find those timeless patterns that feel good to us. And lastly, if you answered trend-setting or ahead of the curve, then you might be a pioneer. Now you'll notice that there are less than 1% of the population as pioneers. These are rare because these are the people who are really setting the tone for what the trends are going to be years down the road. Pioneers see their homes as a lab for experimentation with new ideas. They're not just decorating a home, they're sort of recreating the idea of what a home is. They draw their inspiration from the fringes. They're not reading the same magazines that most of us are reading. They're not looking at the same art. And the way that they think about their home is like an art piece. They are actually composing a home. They get stuck on sustainability. Pioneers are restless. They tend to change their decor. And so having a home that feels continuous over time can be challenging to a pioneer. But they shine in foresight, seeing ahead, knowing what's going to be exciting in the future. These are the 8 design personalities, and we've started to see some reactions to these, having practitioners put them into practice. So one of the ways that design personalities can be used is to improve design process, improve the process of collaborating with a client on a design. This client said that she's a dreamer, and she says, it makes me feel better about my difficulty with decision making. I wish I'd done this before we started our home renovation project. Where that could be really clarifying is, for example, if you're renovating and you make a lot of practical decisions, a dreamer's not going to end up happy with that renovation in the end. They need some element that relates to the fantasy, the life they're trying to build. And if they're not clear on that at the outset, the outcome could be frustrating. Resolving differences. This is a big area of application for this. So one of these clients says this quiz is better than marriage counseling because they've been able to see how the tensions that they have are really tensions in how they view their home. And that's what they need to reconcile, not, should we hang this piece of art here? It's a much deeper tension, and starting to understand and unpack that can help you have more respect for how your partner needs your home to feel. And lastly, understanding patterns. So we're seeing people reflect and understand why they are the way they are. This is a client who talks about, she's an essentialist, and she talks about having been, her mother having been a hoarder, and the challenge of dealing with that and how that's made her an essentialist. So when we understand where these patterns come from, we understand not just why we want things to be the way they are, but why it's so important to us to create a home that feels good. Where this is going. So there's a design personalities toolkit in the works and in-depth training later this year for practitioners and companies. And I would love to see you there. Here are the links so you can find out more. You can sign up for the training at aestheticsofjoy.com/DP training. That isn't out on the website anywhere yet. It's not released. So if you want to sign up, use that link and you'll be notified as soon as spots open for that training. And then take the assessment. Try it for yourself. Find out a little bit more about your design personality, put it into practice, and I'd love to hear your feedback if you do. Thank you.